body image isn't about how we look. I know some people who, well, if I look like them, I'd be really happy. Beautiful people who still have issues.
Yeah.
And so it's not about how we look, it's about how we feel about how we look.
Exactly. And the most handsome men and beautiful women, even though we would think they would never have an issue, they've got little subconscious issues and problems where they feel like they're not beautiful that day and they don't want to go out and whatever. Welcome to Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, where we hear real stories from real people and we tackle all sorts of fun topics in the areas of business, marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, the arts, and, well, life itself. It's amazing what you'll pick up. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everyone. Another fantastic episode of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. I'm Darren Saul, your host. We have a fantastic show today. Leda van der Post is in the house. How you doing, Leda?
I'm well, thanks, Darren. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for showing up in such an amazing, bright, beautiful jumper. Really brightening up my podcast today, which is fantastic.
No, well, it's winter. We have to do something about that.
Now, for everyone out there, we've got a great show. The topic for today, transforming body image through art. And Leda is a multidisciplinary artist, author, and educator whose work spans multiple disciplines and mediums. With a background in fine arts and a PhD in computer science education, Leda combines her creative expertise with an understanding of technology and innovative teaching methods. Her artistic practice embraces an unusual approach that powerfully integrates words and images, inviting viewers to explore themes of identity, narrative, and self-discovery. Leda is the author of My Body, My Muse, Healing Your Body Image Through Creativity, and The Creative Journey, How to Unlock Your Creative Intelligence and Live the Life You Want. In these books, she shares a creative process that has helped others access and use their creative intelligence to help improve their lives. So her latest project, Beyond the Mirror, is an extension of a partnership with the Off-Broadway musical, Does My Ass Look Fat?, to transform the dialogue surrounding body image through an innovative fusion of storytelling, photography, and multimedia art. Well, I'm impressed that I got through that.
Yeah, that's quite a mouthful. I should have.
But that's really good. Welcome to the show, Leda. Really nice to have you. So let's kick off and tell us a bit more about you, your background, your story. How did this project come about?
The short answer to that is I've had issues, body image issues, my entire life. And I've always used my art as my way of addressing and dealing with whatever happens in my life. And so in COVID, I happened to reconnect with a very old friend and colleague, Mary Beth, who was at that point in Boston. I think she's now in Montreal. I was in South Africa at the time. We were chatting in my studio and she suddenly saw a painting on the wall behind me, which was one of the paintings I had done as my process to deal with cancer, which I had recently recovered from. And we were talking about a musical that she was working on, which was around the whole issue of body image. And Mary Beth said to me, we need you to do more of those paintings and we need to have an exhibition in the foyer when we open the show. Yeah. So that was where the idea began. It grew from that because I then moved to Australia and instead of painting, I got back into photography. I've always used words and images in my process. So I used to write on my paintings. Now I write on my photographs.
Right.
And so we thought, what if I interview people about their story, photograph them, and I wanted to be more than photographs. I wanted to be multimedia in some way. And then in the process, they get to learn more about why they have these issues, and in the same way that it worked for me, become more accepting of their bodies and get a positive body image. So that's where the process started.
Love it. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Funny enough, because I've interviewed a psychotherapist many
Mhm.
episodes ago, and one of the things she does is she does therapy through art.
Okay.
Must be some kind of psychology or philosophy behind the
Definitely.
therapy and art and creativity.
Yeah, definitely. It helps you connect with what's really important to you, and it brings out all sorts of traumas and issues. I actually usually have a therapist on hand to refer to people to because I'm not trained in that. And sometimes things come up which people need to address or want to address.
Awesome. And do you have a particular sway towards one medium over another, or you like using all of them?
I tend to go in cycles. So I'll be working in one for a point of time and then shift to something else. My fine arts degree was a major in photography, but that was way back when we had dark rooms. And then I started traveling and couldn't take my darkroom with me, so shifted to painting. Now I'm living in a small apartment, so every time someone comes to visit, I have to pack my easel away. So photography is kind of easier. Behind it all is writing. I write all the time. But I think, yeah, so there's no strong preference. It's cyclical.
It also depends, as you say, depends on what you're doing as well. I never really thought that I would be so interested in writing.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, doing more work in marketing as well, I've really started to fall in love with the written word and copy, sales copy, marketing copy, general writing copy. And it's really lovely to blend images with copy, with
Mm-hmm.
video, and use multimedia.
Absolutely. I think for me, it's because the basis of all my work is about a story. I think at heart, I'm a storyteller. And so even when I paint, I write about what the painting is before I start painting. And I think that's when the process came of, oh, well, what if I just write the story on the painting at some point and evolve that way?
That's very cool. I wonder if many people do it that way or do it the other way around. Do the painting and then write about it after.
Oh, it'd be interesting to find out. I think we all work slightly differently.
Yeah, but there's a great photographer as well, a famous photographer. I think he's an Australian photographer, William Yan, and he's renowned for writing lots of stuff on
Yeah.
his photographs. A lot of black and white portraits and writing everywhere. And he took off. He's huge. But I want to kind of get back into body image and talk a little bit about that. I'm sure people have been, men and women have been struggling and thinking about body image forever. But do you think that that has got any better these days, or is it still as tough as it always was?
I think it's worse. I was on a Zoom call recently. There were about 30 people on the call, and the topic of body image came up. And the presenter asked, she said, please, everyone who has their own body image issue, put your hand up. 2 people didn't. And I mean, it was a wide, diverse range of people. Social media has made it worse. We're bombarded with these images of what perfect should be. And it's kind of impossible. So I don't think it's getting any better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I was listening to another great book, a different topic, but they said everything we do in life is driven subconsciously by status and our need for status. Not so much in the eyes of other people, but in the eyes of ourselves.
Totally.
This kind of feeds into that.
It does, because body image isn't about how we look. I know some people who, well, if I look like them, I'd be really happy. Beautiful people who still have issues.
Yeah.
And so it's not about how we look, it's about how we feel about how we look.
Exactly. And the most handsome men and beautiful women, even though we would think they would never have an issue, they've got little subconscious issues and problems where they feel like they're not beautiful that day and they don't want to go out and whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah. In fact, I think maybe the more beautiful you are, sometimes the harder it is, because I just suddenly had this image of years ago. A family member came to stay and brought his partner, who is this really not just plump, but fat girl. And she sort of bounced around the apartment wearing practically nothing. And I was amazed, because I was much closer to the standard than she was, and I was self-conscious and she wasn't. I was like, oh, I wish I could be like that. So I think it's very interesting.
What kind of things have you realized about yourself with your own struggle with body image? And you look fantastic. I can't see how you've got it.
Well, you see,
As we
I
said,
think
everybody's got their own something.
everybody's got their own thing. I mean, I remember my brothers, the only girl in a family of boys, my brothers teasing me unmercifully. They had these beautiful, perfect noses and teasing me about the blob on the end of my nose. So, that's something that's been with me my whole life. So what I've realized is that it really is about the stories we tell ourselves, and to shift that story is the starting point of change.
And so did you discover art as a therapy for yourself way, way back, or is that something quite recent?
No, I think it's been for quite a long time. It's always been my way of whatever I paint or draw or write about is about what's going on in my life. A long time ago, I had the dream of being the best artist in the world, as you do, but gave that up happily. My art is very much for myself, and if people like it and buy it, that's great. But it really is. So that gave me the freedom to then paint about whatever was current and what I wanted to do. And I found where it really, I think this whole process began is when I was very ill, and then found that by working out those issues on a canvas, suddenly I found a new way of looking at myself and got to peace.
So did you always write a diary? Were you one of those?
Oh, I was a
always had to
kid.
express yourself?
I was a kid. I remember as probably as soon as I could write. I don't know if you had them in Australia, those little black books with a red line.
Yeah.
I wrote stories and novels. Nothing ever happened with them, but I was always scribbling.
It was always art, it was always your way of expression.
And well, actually, art wasn't always my way of expression, because I stopped drawing when I was about 10 because of an incident where someone criticized what I was doing. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a writer instead. Then I ended up finding art again. And from then, I've never stopped.
And I would like to learn a bit more about your take on storytelling. So how does storytelling and creativity fit together?
We all tell stories all the time. We don't think about it, but we do. And when I work with people, one of the things I actually get them to do because people will come to me and say, I'm not creative. And I'm like, that's not true. So I'll get them to tell me a story. And then I'll say, well, now you've just created something that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. And they look at me and they go, oh, storytelling is a very easy access to creativity. We're all creative. We just don't always use it or believe that we are. And we all tell stories about everything. And often, I think the stories we tell ourselves become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
So if we're telling ourselves that I'm fat and ugly, then we're going to act like we're fat and ugly, and people are going to see us as fat and ugly. Not that there's anything wrong with being fat, but, we think there is. But if we shift that and tell ourselves a story about how whatever it might be that's good about ourselves, and then it changes our mindset. So it's difficult to explain, but by going through the process, it's also, I have this thing, I can talk, as you can gather, I can talk forever. But when I work with people, I don't talk so much because they've got to have the experience, and they learn and change through the experience.
That's so true. Yeah. And do you find that any mediums work best in your therapy when you teach?
I think that people find their own medium. So I encourage people to play and explore. So I'll have people write, I'll have people draw. Oh, I've done workshops where we do mosaic things. So it's like play and explore and experiment and find what works for you. I'll work with what I'm comfortable with, but that doesn't mean it's the best thing for everyone. And it's also arranging flowers is a creative act.
Cooking is a creative act.
Cooking, gardening.
People say, I'm not creative. I say, do you cook? Yeah, well, you're creative.
Exactly. Do you go out and buy beautiful presents for your friends? That's creative. Let's not limit ourselves. Let's go find what works for each of us.
So true. And I always like to bring up something that I follow a lot when I talk about creativity, I'll do a shout out for a guy called Chase Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
He started and founded a fantastic platform called Creative Live. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. So if anybody out there, Creative Live is an incredible platform. I think he sold it now. But
Okay.
you can jump on there and learn and grab cheap videos and courses about anything in the creative space.
Oh, wow.
Videography, writing, cooking, editing, whatever. And he always says his big thing, he was a photographer originally, but then he went into creating that platform. And he said, creativity is a muscle. There's no such thing as I'm not creative. It's just a muscle that you have to exercise.
Yeah.
And as soon as you find how to use that muscle and exercise it, all of a sudden, it's like the floodgates open and you just can't stop all the ideas.
No, I totally agree with that. And if you think back to when you were a kid, you give kids paints or crayons and they don't stop to think whether they're creative or not. They just do it. And we all have that. It's just to rediscover it.
Yep. And I think as adults, we're too trained to start shutting all these different areas off, either because we don't work in that space or people have told us we're not good in that space. And then you just shrink all your capabilities down into nothing when you've got so much potential if you just explore it.
Yeah, it relates to the whole idea of body image where we have to be perfectly beautiful. That real value of creative activities is in the process, not the results. But people get so hung up of the result must be perfect.
Yeah, so true.
And then they don't do anything. And that's so sad.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Well, let's hear a little bit more about your exhibition and your project. Tell us more about this.
The Broadway show is taking a bit longer to get off the ground than MB and I were hoping. I don't want to wait. And also, every time I talk to people about it, they go, oh, we want to be involved. So it seems like it is a big issue. And I really want to do something that I know will make a difference. What I'm going to do, I decided to start by having some, what I'm going to just call, for want of a better word, information workshops. So anyone who's interested can come and hear about, well, get to know me and what I'm planning to do, but then also get involved in whatever way they want to be involved. So the idea is that I will interview people about their story, about their body image story. And then based on what they tell me, that will give me ideas about how I should photograph them. Then we'll go and do that. I also will record the interview so that I have their words, which I can then use. I've got this idea, which is kind of, there's going to be a big piece of perspex hanging with images on and maybe 3D printed in some aspects that you can touch and the story will be heard. I've got all these ideas and I know that how it's going to end up will be dependent on the people that join with me to participate because their stories are going to influence what we actually do.
And as you say, it's even that will take on its own journey.
Absolutely.
You don't want to control it before you even.
No, I don't want to limit it or put it any. And I know my own creative process with anything I do is I start with an idea and it evolves as the work continues. So I'm approaching this in the same way.
That's great. So you got a photograph? Are you got a video as well?
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Just see how you go. Maybe, yeah.
See how we go and see what other people. I also wanted there to be an element of co-creation in it. So this is my idea, but each person is very welcome to tell me what they want to get out of it and bring their own ideas too.
And so then once you've done all these, I'll call them mini interviews or mini sessions, then you're going to decide, are you going to make a book out of it? Are you going to?
Well, I'm thinking a book, a website, an exhibition, maybe smaller.
A little documentary. Video.
Yeah, we could. So I'll probably record or document everything as we go so that we can do that kind of thing. There might be performances. There might be smaller interim workshops and exhibitions as we go.
I can hear a guitarist or a pianist in the corner, a little jazz band.
I've got this lovely friend who plays the harp.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So she's going to be invited.
Wow. Amazing. And
do you
have a time frame for this?
Originally, it was for the end of this year when Broadway show was due to open, but that's now been extended. So the first workshop is that I've got scheduled for people to come to is the Saturday, the 27th of July. So that's the starting point.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah, once I get things going, I like to get them going. But no, I don't. It's kind of, let's just see where we get to as soon as we can.
Yeah, great. And so if people want to join, they should just find you and sign up, or they have to have an interview first? Or
No. I think contact me. I'm happy to talk to people. I'm sure you're going to put all the various links and things. And then I'll if they want to come to a workshop, I'll tell them when the next one is and they're welcome to come. If they can't make it, I'm happy to arrange a one-to-one call. And then we take it from there.
Awesome. Now, I wanted to ask you as well about, where does music fit into your therapy?
I love music, but while I can do many, many things, music is the one thing that I'm not good at.
Yep.
It's always there. All my brothers are like these great musicians.
Yep.
Me, my piano teacher used to sit there and play herself and tell me all her problems rather than have me play.
So you paid her.
So yes, I love music.
Session.
I love music, and I'm open to everybody else's suggestions and recommendations. Like I always have music playing.
Yeah.
It definitely needs to be part of the whole process, but exactly how, I'm not sure.
And so then when you teach others, or when others come to your workshops, do you allow them to bring an instrument?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
That's cool. Wow. Okay, lovely. And so tell us a bit more about exactly what you do, not so much in terms of the project, but how you work with people for therapy.
Not this project, but so I've got this process, which what it does is it has people start by bringing what their problem is. But what I've discovered is that the best way to use creativity to address these problems is to start with the problem, then go off and do a whole range of different creative activities that aren't exactly focused on the problem, but allow you to access. For me, true creativity comes from your values and inside you. So my process has people kind of, I describe it as if from the side where you're not expecting it.
Yeah. It's a really good point. It comes from your subconscious. It's not really something that you can sit down and say, let's create something.
No.
So it's thinking about it, it comes to you.
Yeah. So I'll direct them. I'll say, we start, for example, I have this image, which is a whole lot of colored bottle, and I get them to think of an emotion and then pick the bottle that represents the emotion and then label it. So I call it, bottled up emotions. What it actually does is, without them being aware of it, it instantly shifts them into creative thinking mode and emotional feeling. Then we'll go and we'll tell stories, and then they'll imagine things. There's one activity I call imaginary lives, where I say, so if you had 5 other lives to live, what would they be? They go off and imagine all sorts of things without having the pressure of having to create something.
Yeah.
So it's activities that are essentially creative, but not framed as making a painting, for example.
You're not putting a task on somebody and say, here, go do this. You're allowing them to be creative in a very clever, lateral way.
Yeah. And without even thinking about creative or not, they're being creative.
Creating. Yes.
Yeah. And then once they're in that really creative frame of mind and they've discovered things that they've forgotten or, didn't even know were there, then we go back to the problem and say, okay, now how can you bring those things to the problem? And it's quite amazing, the shift and how fast people can shift in that process.
Have you got an example of anyone that, without mentioning names, of course?
Actually, I can. She will be quite happy for me to do this. Is Mary Beth, who I'm working with on the project. Right. I took her through the process because she was planning to move from Boston to Montreal, and she wasn't really sure about how that was all going to work out. And so we went through the process, and one of her imaginary lives was riding a bicycle in France, and she had this whole picture. Next thing we knew, there she was living in Montreal, learning to speak French. And she said, so often it just came back to that feeling that she had in that process. So yeah, that's just one example.
I love it. Very, very cool. Well, that's amazing, Leda. I wish you the best of luck with the project. I think it sounds
Thank you, Jared.
awesome. It's a great community-based project
Yeah.
as well, and
Yeah.
everybody should get behind it. How can people actually contribute in other ways?
Oh, okay. Well, we have applied for grants, but we haven't got any funding yet. So if anybody thinks it's really worthwhile and they don't want to participate as an actual subject, please come and talk to me. The more support we have materially, shall I say, because it doesn't have to be in money, like give me a place to have my workshop. In fact,
Resources,
in
terms of
resources in any way, because I really do want it to make difference in mindset in the community, because I think it's such an important issue. So I'm very happy for anyone to approach me with their ideas.
Yeah. Have you approached some local councils? And
in the process of doing that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine they're being very happy to partner with you.
Would love to. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So tell us more about if people want to find you and work with you as well as sign up to the project. What's the best way for them?
How to do that? Okay, so the project's called Beyond the Mirror because I want it really to be not just about me making art, but about people going beyond how they look.
I like that. Beyond the Mirror. That's very cool.
Yeah. So I've searched on social media for Beyond the Mirror. There's a page on Facebook. There's a page on Instagram. I've got a web page. So they can contact me through that. Or if they just look for me, I'm on LinkedIn and all the various media as well. So, reach out to me anyway like that.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure that I put all the links and everything in the show notes for everybody to access. Please check it out. Are you going to be taking this on a bit of a road show? Maybe? Who knows?
I would love to. Yeah, because I've got people all over who are interested. So yeah, it can go anywhere really. Once it gets, I think the thing for me is once I have something more concrete. So once I've got a few, it's started and I've got some concrete material to show people, then it will become clearer about exactly where we go with it.
Love it. Well, what a great idea. I think it's fantastic. I'm sure everybody's going to get behind it. And I wish you the best of luck with the project. That sounds
Thank you so much, Darren.
And hearing more about it.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for having me on your podcast. It's been a privilege.
Now, as you know, I always like to leave my guest with the last word. So is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Two things. From the name of my project, Beyond the Mirror, anyone who has issues with their body, one really good tip, get rid of unnecessary mirrors in your life. So check how you look before you leave the house, but don't have mirrors everywhere because you don't really want to look at yourself unexpectedly. It's like a really good way of shifting things. And then something that's also I started doing a while back, we're all on social media and sometimes you'll see something that it makes you feel unhappy about yourself. Unfollow that person. You don't need them in your life.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. As they say, social media is like the highlight reel for everybody. It's not true life. It's not every day. It's just a little greatest hits. It's a little snippet.
Yeah.
It's not reality. So people have to realize that what they're seeing on social media is not real life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good point. Well done. Well, Leda, thank you again, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I do. I'll put all the links and details in the show notes. So find Leda, check out the project, and we appreciate you coming on and listening and viewing us. So everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. If you would like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@suspendedanimatio.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. Also, if you have been thinking about putting your own podcast together and not sure where to begin, look no further. I run a really simple 3-part podcasting course, one-on-one with me, where I walk you through the entire podcasting journey. You will end up with a fantastic new podcast to start sharing right away. Feel free to get in touch to discuss further. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.